everybody, my name is Holly Holm and I am a Master Gardener through the Crow Wing County Extension Office. And these are my friends Bob and Kathy, and I'm going to explain why they're here in a little bit. They're super thrilled to be a part of this presentation.
We are.
So a couple of months ago, one of the committee members had reached out to me and asked me if I would be interested in doing a presentation about gardening with chickens. And I at first said, I don't even know what that means. But then I thought, it could be a really cool presentation, and why not? Just kind of want to tell you guys, I'm really new at Master Gardening. I'm only 6 months in. I had a year of, the training and that sort of thing, so I've got a year under my belt, but I'm really only a Master Gardener for about 6 months. And my chicken keeping is only about a year and a half. And kind of a fun fact, these guys are my chicken keepers when I need a babysitter. So the reason that I have these two here is because I thought that they'd be a good fit for this presentation, because Kathy has an interest in raising chickens. Is that fair?
That's fair.
But she has a lot of questions. And I am strongly encouraging her to get chickens because I think that she should. Bob might have a different story. Bob is the gardener of this team. And I think Bob might have some questions too, just because we all know, or we have probably heard a time or two, that you can't have a garden with chickens. Is that kind of a common thing that you guys have maybe heard of or
I
thought
have not heard
I have
that.
not
No.
either.
So when I am shopping for gardening supplies, and I don't know, it just seems like conversations go to chicken keeping and gardening, and then I get this negative feedback. You can't have it both. You can't have both of those things. You can't have a garden with chickens. And I strongly disagree. I think that you have to have a creative mind and a somewhat relaxed attitude about gardening with chickens. I think it is possible. I'm not saying that it's easy. I am saying that there are definitely challenges along the way. But it is what it is. And if you are aware of some of the things that can happen, it's okay. I mean, we'll just kind of go with the punches and see how it goes down.
Mm-hmm.
You guys feeling the same thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So here's the deal. I had gone out on my Facebook page and I had requested questions from my Facebook friends in regards to gardening with chickens, and I just kind of wanted to know, what did everyone else want to know? And so I have a list here on my laptop, and we're going to kind of go through what that list is, and you two are going to ask questions along the way, should you have any. We're also going to be doing some hands-on activities that I will share with you guys, and these guys have not done any of this, so this will be new for them, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. Ready to go?
We are.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to hit the online questions here. So my friend Jackie says, is there a list of plants, and she says ornamentals or annuals, that chickens won't eat? And I kind of laughed at that question, and my first response is, nope. That's the reality of it. Chickens are super curious creatures. I like to refer to them as like little mini feathered garbage disposals. They will eat anything. They're not shy about it. They're gonna sample and check everything out. So there isn't a list of good and bad for chickens. The chickens just kind of have to know. We're going to talk a little bit about toxicity in plants and that sort of thing, and we'll get into that in a little bit. I think that it's a fun fact to know that humans have up to about 10,000 taste buds, but a chicken only has about 350. So how you're tasting and how a chicken is tasting, not the same. I think that we have this idea that chickens, like chocolate cake because you and I like chocolate cake. They don't understand what chocolate cake is. And chickens will eat things that interest them. They'll eat things that are bright and colorful. So for instance, flower petals, that could be something of interest to them, or just something that's new that they haven't gotten yet. If it's new to them, they are interested and want to know about it. And when chickens are eating, they don't actually taste until the food gets into the back of their mouth. That's where their taste buds are. So it's very different in comparison to humans and chickens. And I think we have a hard time kind of understanding that it's just not the same. Like how you and I eat something is not how, they're not planning a meal. They're scouring around looking for what looks cool to them. So anyway, I just think that's kind of a little fun fact that we need to share with them. So interestingly, Chickens can taste bitterness, saltiness, and sourness, but they cannot taste sweet or spicy. And I was telling these guys earlier, like, you could feed them jalapenos and they're not going to have any idea. But if you feed, you like spicy?
Mm-hmm.
You like spicy?
Mm-hmm. Somewhat.
Sometimes people get a little freaked out when they have a jalapeno and they're like, their head's going to explode. Chickens don't care, and they can't taste it.
So basically, they can eat any human food.
They can. Here's the thing with feeding treats to chickens. When I say treats, like human scraps, totally okay. I will oftentimes feed like the carrot peelings or cucumber peelings, that type of thing. But you have to do it in a low dose. And here's why. So the chicken feed, like normal chicken feed that they're getting every single day, that is what is keeping them healthy. If you give them extra stuff, it kind of dilutes their diet.
Sure.
So
Makes
it's
sense.
okay to give them treats out of the garden, but it's not necessary, and it's not like you're going to be helping them really. It's kind of like us eating potato chips. I mean, we like them, but we shouldn't be eating them all the time, right? I mean,
That's a matter of opinion, but
right. But that's the way we need to look at it, because we don't want to dilute their diet. We want to keep them as healthy as we can, and it's okay, throw them some carrots or strawberry tops or whatever it is, just to get them out of your garden, and let them. It's a point of interest for them too, and keeps them entertained, if you will. But it's not something that you can say, I have a pile of food scraps, this is what they're getting today, because you're just going to make your chicken unhealthy. So, good questions. Where was I? Okay, so now we're talking about the food. So now Jackie asks a question: how do you keep chickens from eating your good, she calls it good plants? Jackie, we all know as master gardeners that all plants are good plants. So this is a matter of finding your balance in the garden with your chickens. There are certainly ways that you can get creative with having your chickens join you in the garden, but there's just a balance. One of the things that you can do is think about your plant placement. I have some plants like annuals that I've just planted because you want some little pop of color in your yard or whatever. I have them in containers, which is one thing. If you put them in containers, that's kind of a deterrent. If this is a container right here, it's not as easy as for them to get in here and scratch around. So that would be a deterrent for them. If you raise the container up, I have like a little step stool on my front porch. They're not going to even go after that. They're going to be walking on the ground and not really even noticing what's above them. And then I have a little planter on their chicken coop that is also above ground. They could care less. They don't even know it's there. So think about where you're putting those plants and just kind of understand it. You have to kind of think like a chicken. Challenging, right? Because I don't know what chicken's thinking about, but whatever. So you can put in, if you're talking about plants that are directly in the ground, some of the things that you can help your plants just by saving them from the chicken damage is by putting like rocks around the bottom, or you can, like if it's in a container, you can put, how like in the wintertime they do like the white birch sticks and that sort of thing. Kind of the same concept, but those sticks are going to prevent those chickens from wanting to nest in there and that type of thing. I have also seen online that somebody did like, they did like a cool ladder display of plants. And then they were really strategic about what other kind of decor they put around. They put around like those tin watering cans, so that if a chicken jumps up onto one of those steps, which they will, I mean, they're curious, they're checking it out. Well, that watering can would crash down. Well, that's going to scare the chicken, and then the chicken's going to run away and be like, not my thing.
Sure.
I, though, don't want to be constantly picking up all stuff.
Will the chickens learn over time
Yes.
that I haven't, so that you can not do that and they'll still stay away?
Yes, you can kind of train them. So what I like to do is kind of cage, if you will, and I've got a couple of cages around some of my containers right now just because they're full of flowers, bright colored flowers. And I kind of figured that once they're free ranging that they were going to be eyeballing those, so I kind of was preparing myself for that. So I caged around. But if they are around those cages often enough and just don't even, and know that they can't get at them, I could then in a couple of weeks maybe take that cage away and they're going to be kind of already trained, like, I can't get that plant, even though the cage is already gone.
Okay.
This is not foolproof, though. I have no guarantees that that is going to work for your chickens, Kathy, or mine. So some things that are healthy for chickens to eat. So garlic, good for their respiratory and immune system. It's a little fun facts for you guys to know.
Not so much for their breath, though.
Correct. Yeah, don't expect wonderful chicken kisses. It's probably not going to happen with them eating garlic. Pumpkins and cucumbers. I had gotten some pumpkins last year. We worked at a pumpkin festival in town and had some pumpkins left over, so I brought some home and I smashed them up so that they were in pieces. Gave chunks of the pieces into the chicken run, and they just went crazy on them. I didn't do it a whole lot. Again, diluting their diet, but if you have access to something like that, certainly share it with them. They kind of say like a pumpkin is like a natural dewormer for chicken. Dogs too, it's good for dogs as well. Yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. Melons, squash, peas, leafy greens, beet, and turnip greens. There isn't necessarily any health benefits, but chickens like them. And I don't know, you can find anything online. I think chickens will just try anything because it's new, and they don't know. You can just take their regular feed and throw it on the ground, and because you threw it on the ground and it's not in their feeder, they're gonna think it's new and exciting and it tastes great. But it's just in a new form. They don't know. They don't have a clue. Okay, we're going to talk a little. Okay, I should mention this too. It is actually okay for you to give chickens scrambled eggs, and that might weird some people out and be like, "Isn't that like cannibalism?" No, it isn't. Chickens produce eggs. It's not anything new that we didn't know, but eggs are good source of protein. So if you scramble them and cook them fully and give them back, they will love you forever. But you should know that if chickens get a little bit of a taste on raw eggs, so like if they lay an egg and then one of the chickens gets into the coop and pecks at that egg, that is a horrible habit and very, very hard to break. So you want to make sure if you're going to give them eggs, make sure that they're cooked and that they don't understand that it came from the egg, right? You kind of got to trick them a little bit. Crushed eggshells. We're going to do a little bit of a demonstration here. So I have collected some eggshells. And these are just from cooking eggs in the morning. So you can actually give the eggshells, there's a couple of things you can do with the eggshells. One is, knock yourself out. So Kathy's gonna go ahead and crush these up. You can put these right back in the garden. It's good calcium source. Nicely done.
Oh.
You're like a pro.
Oh, yeah. With this, not this.
So that's, or you can give these right back to the chickens, so they will eat their own shells without really knowing that that's what they're eating. So another calcium source. We're going to also do another little demo. You can use eggshells as a little planting cup. You guys ready to try it?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
So I don't know what I'm going to do with these. I'm probably just going to give these back to the chickens. So thank you for crushing them up.
Yes.
Job well done.
Yes.
Okay, so here's a little demonstration, and I think that this can be fun if you've got young people in your life and they want to do some gardening and you do have chickens, or if you have access to eggs, right? We're going to use the chicken shell to plant a seed. So first thing we're going to do is just fill up a small container like this.
Quick question, how did you treat these shells
Oh,
first?
that's right. So again, I was making an egg one day and whatever. I have been saving the shells, and so once they're cracked in half, I rinse them out just under a slow running tap water. Got the egg slime out of there just with my finger, and then I baked them. Once I had a tray full of them, I baked them in the oven, and it wasn't like I purposely turned on the oven. I baked them when I was using the oven. So if I threw in a pizza at 350, cook my pizza, cool, I'll throw my eggs in. We'll bake the eggs and we'll save them for later until I've got enough to crush them or use them as this. Okay?
Okay.
So we're going to fill up this little container with our potting soil. Kind of at your leisure here. So kind of full, kind of not. Where are the seeds? Bob, you got them over there?
Yes.
Okay, so we are going to be planting Mammoth Russian sunflowers
in this little pot.
in this little tiny thing. So as you get your dirt in the eggshell, You're going to put one seed in.
Uh-oh. There we go.
A little more dirt.
A little more dirt. And then, I need to do this too.
Should you
Hang on, I
pack
got this.
down?
Yeah, you can gently pack it down. So then, you're going to need some dirt in here.
Oh, that's true.
Want me to hold your egg?
Yes, please. I don't want to crack it yet before it's time.
So we are going to have to crack these a little bit so that the roots have a place to go.
Sure.
But we still want to keep it in its form, if you will.
Now, is the purpose of using it in an eggshell that the egg creates nutrients for
Yeah,
the seed?
yep. It's a calcium thing.
Mm-hmm.
It'll just kind of
Okay.
help the plant grow a little bit. And I mean, it's just kind of a cute little
Oh, it's
craft.
really
I think
cute.
if you've got little
For
people,
kids.
yeah,
Mhm.
right.
Sure.
exactly.
Okay, so here's how I did it when I planted those other ones. I kind of cup the egg in my hand and kind of crush it, but you got to be kind of careful at the same time. The theory is that you want the roots to be able to grow through this, so you kind of got to crack it on the bottom, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to be a little careful with it.
Maybe a
Oop,
little.
okay.
But that's okay. That's totally fine. Okay, so see how mine is like it's kind of not really kept together, and that's okay.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna take this whole thing and I'm gonna put it in this cup. I'm gonna put a little bit more dirt on top. We're gonna water it and we're gonna watch it grow. Super easy.
Great.
But I love the idea of
That is cool.
reusing and recycling all the things. We're going to be talking about, eggshells, one of them. Another thing that we can reuse in the garden, chicken poop. Definitely something that can be used in the garden. There's a whole list of ways that you can deal with composting chicken manure, really. I actually gave you guys some
Mm-hmm.
chicken litter in the winter. It was still cold out.
Yes.
So, how do I explain this? If you are really into composting, you know that you can, like, it has to be so many degrees, that you can turn it for so many days, and then there's just a whole process, right? What do they call that? They call that, where is it? Fully composted. Seems pretty obvious. So you're worried about temperature and time and the turning and the curing, and all the things have to kind of line up and have to happen. There's another option. It's called lazy composting, which I find a little offensive because this is the way I compost, and I don't think it's lazy. I just think it's smart. You really don't do anything. It depends on how you're going to be using the compost. They kind of say, like, if you're planting produce, if you will, like tomatoes or beans that are trellised or that grow up and they're not touching the compost can sit dormant for like 90 days. But if you're growing melons or squash or anything like that, and the produce is on the ground where the manure is going to be, then you want that compost, the chicken poop, to be sitting for, what did I say,
120 days.
120.
Mhm.
We're good because I gave you guys the poop in December, and I remember telling you you can't use this right away, which we're not going to be gardening in December anyway.
Worked
But
well.
yeah, you basically just sit and wait,
Mhm.
and then it's fine. So by the time that we're into gardening season, you really can just put the compost in with and you guys did a community garden,
We're doing a community gardens plot, and we
worked it in.
Worked
Yeah.
it in there, and
Yeah.
and they're starting to pop already. So.
Fantastic.
I haven't seen any chickens come up yet. but the vegetables are popping.
Well, great. That's ideal.
Yes.
It's exactly how you want it to
Yes.
work. So anyway, and again, it doesn't matter how you do it, how you compost the chicken poop. It's not wrong either way. It's just the way you choose to do it. I don't want to have a thermometer, and I just don't want to be dealing with it. It's just super easy for me. I've got a couple of trash cans out back behind the chicken coop that every morning I'm cleaning the coop out, and I just dump my bucket into another trash bin, and it sits there. And I'll scoop it out when I want it. It's going to be fine. I've got 2 bins, so I've got one, like, once I stop putting in that one, I know that one will be ready, and then I
sure.
can start working on the second bin, and by the time this one's done, then I can, you know what I mean? It's just a matter of rotation. You just gotta be mindful of it. So
You have to clean the coop every day?
I do clean the coop every day.
To know.
Does that excite you?
Yes.
It honestly takes me about 5 minutes every morning. So again, I use sand in my chicken coop, and I feel like that's just easy for me. A lot of people use what they call a deep litter method, where there's straw and it's all layered and the poop is in there, and then I just don't like that. To me, it's dirty. It's just not for me. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just not for me. The sand is super easy. I take like a big cat scooper, litter box scoop. I clean it out every morning. I put it in a little bucket like this and dump it into my trash can. It seriously takes 5 minutes. They're not even done eating their breakfast by the time I let them out, and I'm already done cleaning my coop. So, not a big deal. Doesn't bother me at all. But it is part of the process, so you do have to think about that.
So this is a video of some of my chickens finding a favorite spot of theirs in one of my gardens to take a dust bath. Ironically, this is the very first time that I have ever seen them do this in any of my gardens. I've seen them dust bathe before, like in their chicken run or out in our woods a little bit with some leaves and that sort of thing, but they have never picked a spot in my garden. So I feel your pain, everybody. If you are dealing with this, it's weirdly annoying, right? I mean, they're fun to watch do this, but man, you just wish that they could pick a different spot to do it, because you don't want your gardens to be destroyed. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do about this situation. One option would be for me to lay down some hardware cloth underneath the dirt a little bit, and that would prevent them from digging, and they just simply wouldn't be able to dig a hole. But quite honestly, doing that is more work than I am wanting to do. When I talked earlier about finding your balance, I think that this is one of those times. I mean, I have to understand that this is what chickens do, and ask myself, how much damage are they really doing? And right now they're not doing much other than just digging a hole, but they're not wrecking any plants as we speak. I'll just have to kind of keep my eye on them and, make sure that they're being themselves but being good about it. It is kind of fun to watch them, though. It's just something that's interesting. Look at that dust that just flies off of that bird. Isn't that just funny? Many of you are maybe wondering, why on earth do they even do this? And this is actually their way of keeping clean, which is ironic. The dust that they're kicking up into their feathers helps maybe suck up the oil and any moisture that's in their feathers. And also in the summertime when they're hot, they'll dig a dust bath just to try to keep themselves cool, which shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. I mean, lots of animals dig a hole to stay cool. So this is just chickens being chickens. And there you'll see that little white one going right after my hostas. So, you got to watch their behavior, but also have to find the balance. How big of a deal is it that they're in here making holes or taking a bite out of a hosta? A hosta is, they're a dime a dozen, really. So I'm not terribly disappointed. And again, I just have to come to the conclusion that this is what I have to deal with chickens. So find your balance, you guys.
So Candace and Suzanne, they were talking about dust bathing too. They both kind of had the same question. My chickens like to take a dust bath in my mulch or garden beds. How do I stop them from doing that? And Suzanne says, I agree. Any tips on how to keep chickens from scratching my mulch out of the garden? My first response is, don't use mulch. Then they can't kick it out of the garden. But that's also not realistic, because mulch is really good for your garden and your plants. So I'm not discouraging mulch. I'm just saying that good luck. Chickens are curious. They're going to get in there. They're going to check it out. They're going to dig around, and they're going to kick it out. And again, you got to find the balance. Is it going to drive you crazy? If you don't want that particular area to be kicked out, fence it off. Just make it hard for those chickens to get in there and do the destruction that they're not really meaning to do. They're just being chickens.
Sure.
Curious.
Yeah, that's just kind of the way it is.
They don't eat the mulch, do they?
I wouldn't think so. I mean, when they're out free ranging, they're eating all sorts of things. Mulch, though, is pretty big pieces. I don't think that they could get that, but whatever. Figure it out if you want to eat the mulch. One more thing that you could do. Here's an idea. There's like plastic poultry mesh. It kind of reminds me of the snow fencing. but it's but smaller squares. You could either lay that on top of your garden or bury it a little bit. That'll prevent them from scratching. I don't know how I feel about that. I think to me that's more of a pain to put that down. I mean, I don't know. Like my chickens haven't been terrible, so I'm not to that level. That doesn't mean that I won't be. It just depends. It depends on how much damage they're gonna do. I mean, I don't know, but it is an option if you want to keep them from kicking it out. You have to make them not be able to scratch, and that's, you could also use chicken wire or hardware cloth.
Clip their toenails.
You can clip their toenails, but they're
Seriously.
still gonna scratch though. They're still gonna kick stuff around because that's just what chickens do. So I have not had to clip toenails yet, and I'll call you when I'm ready for that. You'll come over. Okay, so we talked about the composting. You guys have any random questions?
Covered a lot of ground.
This might bring some to mind. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to put together some tips and fun facts. So I gathered some super random, like this isn't in any order, and it is random. So did we talk about the potting soil stuff? The vermiculite and the perlite?
No.
Okay, so in potting soil, oftentimes, unless it's organic, this stuff is organic, so you won't see any of that in there. Those little white styrofoam balls, chickens are going to want that. So if you're buying potting soil with that in, which is totally okay, just know that if you have chickens and they see that, they're going to go in and they're going to eat those little styrofoam ball things. And we don't want them to have that. That's not going to be good for their digestive system or their health, really. So just know that there are things that you can do, such as layering leaves or rocks on top of your container that you're doing, or even if you're using potting soil directly in the ground, cover that up because they're gonna find it and they're gonna eat it, and then it's no good, right? Focus on hard to kill varieties of plants, which seems pretty obvious, but that's also the reality of it. I mean, make it hard for them to do the damage. So get like flowering shrubs where the root balls are ornamental grasses, where the root balls are just harder to damage. And that's okay. Like if they go in there and maybe they want some shade, it's hot, and that's okay. They can lay there. That's not going to do any damage. Some of those plants though are so hardy that it doesn't matter. Like they're gonna let them do the chicken things that they're gonna do, and they can walk away and the plant's gonna be fine. So just kind of be mindful as to what you're planting, and go with there. So pest management, that's another thing. I have a goal for my vegetable garden, which is actually behind the camera right now. It's in the very, very early stages. I don't even have dirt in I've got stock tanks and all this cool stuff, but I don't even have dirt in there. But I'm thinking about it, and I know that I want a fence around this garden because I want my produce to be protected. If you have a different idea on that is totally okay. Here's why I say that. So all gardens are going to probably attract some sort of pest. Have it be a beetle or an aphid or something like that. Well, chickens like to eat those things, but chickens also like to eat tomatoes and cucumbers. So you have to find your balance, right? I mean, you could certainly let them into your garden and eat the pests, but they're also going to find the produce that you're trying to grow. So you've got to find the balance. And my personal thought is I want to fence up. I'm keeping the chickens out of my produce garden. Sorry, but game off. It's off limits to you. They're free ranging and they can go wherever they want in this world except for in my produce garden. Those are my rules. It's my garden and I get to make that up. So we talked about the eggshells, so that's kind of cool. You can throw those back into the garden, and that'll be just a calcium deposit for them, for the plants. You can also throw in your coffee grounds. Did you guys know that?
Yes. I've used them in my worm.
Yes.
My worm farm.
We can talk a little bit about the worms. Mm-hmm. I have composting worms. Kathy now has composting worms. I feel like I'm dragging Kathy into my world, and Bob's kind of along for the ride.
Pretty much.
Exactly.
So we haven't gotten Kathy quite to the chickens yet, but we're starting with worms. So I'm proud of you.
Yes.
And you guys got your garden, your community garden, so that's great.
Yes.
It's one step at a time.
Yes.
Oh, we can talk about this. Spruce the Coop. This is like Coop Fresh. So this is basically chicken coop potpourri. Don't think I'm crazy. It's a real thing. What did you say that this smelled like? I thought it like oregano.
Yeah.
It kind of smells herby.
herbs. Mhm.
Yeah. So this was actually made by a friend of mine who gave this to me. We were trading chicken babysitting duties, and normally, like, I would pay these guys in eggs, but I can't pay my friend in eggs when she's already got chickens. The eggs are the last thing that she needs. So she thought that she would give me some of this fresh coop mix. So basically, I'm going to read to you guys what the ingredients are. I don't actually know what's in this particular bag. I can see that it looks like there's little dandelions in there. I don't know if these were dandelions or what these were, but they were flowers. Looks like some sort of rose or some petals. I know that there are some herbs in there. I just don't know what they are, but it smells good. So all chicken safe. Typically, how I use this stuff is I put it in the nesting boxes and I put it underneath the bedding, just so that it still smells good in there, but they're not getting at it. But it is safe for them to eat this. But if they eat it, then it goes away, and then what's the point in having it in there, right? I'm kind of hiding it from them, but whatever.
You need a potpourri container.
Yes,
to
you
hang
need.
in. Cool.
Yeah. Okay. So the ingredients that I found online: rosebuds and petals, mint leaves, chamomile flowers, marigolds. Fun fact about marigolds: apparently, if they eat a lot of marigold petals, it will turn their yolks even more yellow. I find it hard to believe though, because my chickens are not eating marigolds and their yolks are super yellow and like really, really bright. That's the difference between farm fresh eggs and store-bought ones. But kind of cool to know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not suggesting that you go out and feed only marigold petals to your chickens. Not good for their diet. Lavender, cornflower petals, and catnip. So kind of cool. Do you want to share we have some potted plants. These are some of the things that I planted earlier. Like this was like right around Mother's Day. I planted some of these things with the same idea. These are all planted in the eggshells. So this is mint, and these are the giant mammoth Russian sunflowers. I seriously can't wait to see how big these things get. They say 12 feet. Yeah. Kind of crazy. I thought that the sunflowers would be super fun because these also can get repurposed. You could screw it to a tree and have the birds eat it. You could probably give it to the chickens and have them work on it a little bit. I remember I did this once a long, long time ago, and I had like a shelf, and we just put the whole flower on on a flat surface, and the birds would come in and eat it. So I thought that was kind of cool. As far as the mint goes, I think that chickens also love mint, but I like mint for another reason. Here's why. I think you can make mojitos with mint, and I think that is how we are going to wrap up our chicken education of gardening with chickens. What do you think?
Sounds
All
good
right,
to
well,
me.
cheers to that. We will see you guys in the garden, hopefully with your chickens.
Here's to chickens.
Here's chickens.